Our project this week is a paper weaving using painted papers. And so we're going to first make our painted papers and then do the cutting of our background and the strips and then make our paper weaving. So you'll need 3 pieces of white paper. You'll need acrylic paints, your paintbrush, paint bowl and water, paper toweling, a large paintbrush and a medium-sized paintbrush, a plastic fork, scissors and a pencil, and a glue stick. Let's get started. So the first step is going to be taking one of our papers, and this is going to eventually be the background paper of our weaving. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to make painted papers. And this is a popular technique with collage, what we're going to do, weaving. And so there's no right or wrong. There is just you playing around with color and pattern and just having fun. So our first piece, because it is going to be the background piece, we are going to stick with just one color with white. Okay. Now I happen to like black because I think other colors contrast very nicely with it, but you can use whatever color that you want, but it's going to be that one color and white. Okay. So I'm going to show you one of the techniques that I'm going to use, and that is I'm going to put, and we have to paint all the way out to the edges, and you can take just a plastic fork and you can make interesting patterns, and we have to do this in small spaces because our paint will dry pretty quickly. So you can just extend those lines. Now they're pretty subtle, so I don't know if you can see them on the video or not, but they're there. Here, I'll hold it up so maybe you can see. Okay. So you do have to work fast so that you don't have to deal with paint that has dried. I'm just putting little squiggles. And now I'm going to go up here. The next section. And don't worry if your paint dries, it's not going to ruin the project. We can just go over it with white paint if we need to, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, here's my last sections here. A little more black. Okay. Now you want to go back, and if there's any white, if there's any areas where you didn't get paint on it, see, I missed this upper edge here in this corner, go back and touch those up. Okay, so we're going to let that dry just a little bit. And in the meantime, we're going to get white paint. Whoops, that's some dried paint there. That wasn't good. Okay. So now when your black paint is almost dry, we're going to get a medium brush, and we're just going to make some loose dots down some of these areas. They can be random. In between some of your squiggles. Sorry, I was concentrating on looking for where to put my squiggles. And they can be different size strokes. These aren't really dots, they're mostly, I think they're splotches. And then you can kind of look to see if there's any section that is overlooked. All right, so this is going to be our background. And so we're going to set it off to the side to dry. And now it's time for our second piece of paper. And so I'm going to pause this just a second to clean out my water so that I'm ready for new colors. Okay. Okay, so we're on to our second piece of paper, and this is just going to be abstract. Again, playing with patterns and colors, just generally having a good time. So what we're going to do with this piece of paper, we're going to use cool colors. So purples, blues, we're going to throw a few greens in there, okay? And so then you'll probably guess that on the third piece of paper, we're going to use warm colors, okay? So I'm going to start off with, and you don't have to have the same color appear all over. We're eventually going to cut these into strips. So it doesn't, a second, I'm checking to make sure I got my brush clean. So it can be just blotches of paint all over. You can do stripes. I'm going to put this nice bright blue around for a little bit, and then I'm going to do another blotch. Make sure you shake up your paint. And think about what colors look good next to each other. You can blend them. Right there, we're kind of getting a third color there. I'm going to paint all the way down to the edges, bottom, top, and sides. Then I can come back with my blue in a different spot. And then I can start bringing in a different color if I want. A different bottle of that. See, you'll get a third color on your paper. So now I can move up a little bit. I'm going to go back into my blue. As you can see, this isn't planned out. This is just having a good time with paint. I'm going to come in with a different green up here. Well, maybe. Okay, you keep painting. I'm going to try to find myself another green. There we go. Some of it I'm going to go over twice, so it'll be darker. Other spots I'm going to leave it as is. I'm thinking about my next move. Some green down here, just kind of a dry brush. Give it some texture. Also helps clean out my brush. Okay, I'm going to go back to the light blue. Sort of blending it. Okay, so you're just gonna blend some of these different colors together. I'm thinking this looks pretty cool. Hope you're having fun. Just keep it loose, painterly. And then go back and there's some areas that you're not very fond of. Just put a different layer. Kind of soften them up. All right, so that's page 2. So I'm going to pause this and clean brushes and set this off to the side to dry. Okay, now you've got your third piece of paper, and you guessed it, we're going to use warm colors. So I've got orange, I've got pink, I've got red, I've got a rose color, I've got yellow. All right, and we're going to do the same technique as we did with the previous, let me push this up a little bit so you can see, with the previous sheet, only using the warm colors. So I'm going to start off with this peach, well, I guess it's called rose. Okay, and again, we're just going to loosely paint it in sections, overlapping and blending. Okay, so now I'm going to put out some orange. Some of the clean out my pink. Again, you want to overlap and blend. This long piece of paper, I have a hard time having you see all the entirety of it. Again, overlapping some, blending. Come in with some red. Random over here. This is called Pink Blast. Again, it's no problem if some of your red or orange gets mixed together. That's what gives it some interest. Notice this orange is turned into more of a red orange as I've gotten some pink paint on my paintbrush. I'm going to come back in here and basically use the straight orange because that gives it yet a different sort of look. Okay, I'm going to put some more red here and then go back in my orange. Paintbrush hair there. Got it off. And go back and look at to make sure that you're getting out to the edges. What's happening on my paintbrush, so I'm gonna cool. If you get too much paint on your paintbrush, too many different colors of paint on your paintbrush as well, it's good to every so often just clean it off because it'll start looking a little muddy. Not your paintbrush, the colors that are coming off of it. Some of the textures that are happening there. So I'm not not going to mess with that. I don't know about you, but my arm's getting a little tired poking at this paper. Okay, go back over again and see if there's any places that you want to fix up. Okay. So now we're going to make sure that all of our papers are dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, we're ready for the weaving step. And the first thing you want to do is take your paper number one that we did first, that's just 2 colors, and we're going to fold it with the painted side in. We're going to fold it in half. So we're going to fold it in half like this, okay? Now we're going to keep it folded, and we're going to take our pencil and we're going to draw lines, okay, that we will then cut. And we don't want to get them too close to the edges, and we're going to draw so that they're slightly curved. And don't put them too close together. We don't need to make this difficult for ourselves. And don't start all the way at the top, but you are going to go all the way down on the fold down here. Make sure you can see that down here, okay? And try to make them fairly uniform in length, in width, but you don't necessarily need to do that. Okay. And now we're going to go the other way. So it's kind of like when we did our pumpkins. We made the ridges on the pumpkin go one way and then the other. And one last one. So you should end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. And this doesn't look great, so I've got too much of a curve here. So I'm going to fix that up and just make a squiggle here to remind myself that I don't want to cut there. Okay? So now you want to get your pair of scissors out, and we're going to cut from the fold up to the top, but not all the way up. So I'll demonstrate. And we're keeping our paper folded. And then we're going to come down. So see, I stopped cutting about 1 inch from the top, because we need this all to hold together, right? So we don't want to cut anything through all the way to the end, except at the fold. To go the other way. Now you can just make these lines straight up and down if you want, but I kind of like the look of it when you have it folded. Excuse me, curved when you're weaving. Sorry, my camera had moved. All right, so I hope you can see that. This is my last one. All right, so we've got all of these cut through both. Okay, and so now we're going to open it up, and that's going to be the background upon which we weave. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to take our painted paper, and I'm going to cut strips, not the long way, but the short way, across the paper. You don't have to measure. Don't make them real skinny. I guess I'm making mine about 1 inch across. So, see how great these look when they're cut into strips? We've got all sorts of, we've got different colors and textures and brush strokes. Okay. So now we've got all of our cool color strips over here. And we're going to pick up our third piece of paper and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to pause the tape so that you can continue cutting. Okay, so now you've got your strips all cut. So you want to keep your cool colors together. You want to keep your warm colors together. And then you've got the background. So we're going to take one strip and we're going to start our weaving by going under the first strip, over, under, over, and under. And then you're going to push it down as far as it will go. Okay? Then you're going to pick up a cool color and you're going to start under rather than over. So it's going to go the opposite of what you just did with the warm strip. So under and over. And if you see that you've got two overs next to each other, you know one of them's wrong. Okay, so you push it so it's even, and then you push it down. And then you pick up oops, I got two. Pick up a warm colored, and you start with it being over first and then under. And as you start weaving, you might want to start this up higher and then you'll just push it down because it will get tighter to weave as we get more strips in there. And then you put it down. Okay, so now it's going to be under, over, under, okay, so now you can start seeing what our curved lines are doing for it, right? So now we're ready for our warm color, so that means it is over first. You have to be careful not to tear. Take your time. And then push it down as far as it will go. Under, over, under. Over. After a while, you get into the rhythm of it. It can feel clunky at first. Just make sure that you push them down. Now I have a lot of orange on the end, so I wanted to get one that showed that there's more red. So you can sift through and find the best strip for this project. Well, that one doesn't want to go under. There we go. Okay, it looks like we have room for maybe 2 or 3 more strips. So over, under. Oops. Now it is going to be getting tighter because we're getting up towards the top. This might be the last one. Okay, so now make sure that your ends are lined up with the side. They're not sticking out or sticking over. Okay, so now we're going to get our glue sticks. And by the way, you have lots of strips left over, so if you want to make a different background with another piece of paper, you could use these for weaving another project. Alright, so we want to take these edges and just glue them down so they won't come unwoven. Press them down for a little bit. I'll turn it around. If you're finding that the glue stick isn't strong enough, you can use regular Elmer's glue and just put a dot under each piece of paper. Okay, now you want to flip it over so we can do the strips on the bottom. And if you want, you could put these underneath a heavy book or something to flatten out the project. Okay, we'll do the other side. Okay, so let's turn it over and admire our work. Well done.